Hello there, welcome back to another ARK Survival Ascended tutorial. Today is a big one and a lot of people have been asking for this. This is going to be the tutorial for my big A-frame, which is also my ocean base. But if you find a big enough space, you can probably also just place the base wherever you want. But you'll need a bit of space though, because especially the main building is quite big, and then we have the little side addition, which is basically a little house to live in. But you should have plenty of space. You can definitely use this as a main build. A little warning, some parts of this build have a little bit of overlapping, so you want to probably be building on a server where you have the collisions disable collisions turned on, or in your single player make sure to turn that on so you can actually do it. If you're building on official, especially for the roof, for the main building, I think you'll be able to do it. You might have to make a little bit of a change if you want to have the tunnel connecting to a side building. Make sure to, instead of the half overlap that I do, just make a full roof overlap instead, and then everything should be able to line up. But for the rest, hopefully you'll be able to enjoy this big build for yourself if you want to build it. If you want a closer look at the way I've built it and at my interior, at the end of the video I'll do a little walkthrough of the entire build, showing you how my base looks and what you can do with it once you've built it. And now especially also the walkway around the build, which is not really going to be completely included in this tutorial, because that's very personal to what you need, what you want, and where you're building this. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please make sure to leave a like, make sure you're subscribed, because that will really help me out a ton. And if you want to show even more support, you can become a member from the low price of €1 if you just want to support me. And if you go for the tier 2, you'll actually get access to all the videos a little bit earlier as soon as they are done. Okay, the first thing you need to do, of course, is find a place where you want to build the base. Of course, as an ocean base, it's the easiest because you will have enough space no matter what. Just the pillars in the water might be a little bit difficult, especially in survival. And if you're building it on land, you may need to make sure that you have enough space to place the entire foundation. Now, the foundation is 12 on the shorter side and 15 on the longer side. And then you can see a couple connections already on the sides. On the left side, we have the middle 3 going out. That's where the connection will be to the little side building. And then on the right side, we have the middle 7 have a little extension, because that's where the big open door will be. Okay, assuming that you have your foundation in place, we can get started with the building. On this shorter side, we're going to start with 2 wooden walls like this. And you want to make sure, at least in my opinion, it looks better if you have the inside facing outward. But of course, personal preference. So if you want, you can also change this around and do it with the other side, the normal side on the outside, if you like that look more. Then we're going to have some sloped walls on top of it, of course, because, well, we're going to have to create the A-frame, and that basically means we're going to make a big triangle shape of the building. So this is what we get started with, and then we go on the side here with the quarter wall, the normal variation, and then the alternate variation. And then here again, you go from normal to alternate to normal to alternate to normal, and then alternate again. That's just so that we can build in the supports, and we will use these snap points for the roof as well. So we'll do the same on this side as well. So just want to bring in this the entire way. So make sure you connect it. Basically, why you alternate is to make sure that it fits into the wall next to it, because now it wouldn't fit, it would be gaps. Alternate, make sure that it fits the right way. So make sure to pay attention to that when placing these walls, to make sure that you don't have like the weird gaps in between, because I mean, it's a little bit of a shame if you have it looking like that. You don't want that for your nice base. So then we're going to have some quarter ceilings connecting over here, because we're going to use that as a snap point for the rest of the walls. Going to do the same on the other side as well. And then we can place in some extra walls here just to basically complete the shape all the way through. So we're going to do the same on this side as well. And then we'll have the first support done on this end of the building. And then you basically want to do the exact same thing on the other side as well. Okay, then it's time to basically decide what the front of your building is going to be, or more specifically where you want to have your gate, because you can have it on either side. In theory, if you want, you could also have it on both ends. That's just not what I did, but yeah, if you want it on one side, just pick wherever that is more convenient for you. In this case, probably it would make more sense on that side, because then I could make a connection to the land. But I'm just basing it off what I did in my main base. So it will be here on this side. And this is basically so you can easily fly in or take in most bigger dinos. So you can easily unload all your stuff. Then we want to add in some pillars. So we want to surround the gateway with pillars at least. And then make them go across as well, so we can easily connect the building to it in a later stage. And then we can basically start on the rest of the wall. We will use greenhouse walls for that. So we want to make sure that it is the lighter green on the inside. Now, there's many ways you could fill in the rest of this wall. We're gonna use greenhouse walls, so you could just fill this in and make the A shape. Probably would still look pretty good. But I want a little bit more variation to the design than just using the basic wall. So what we're going to do instead is use the double doorway next to the gates. Not because we're going to actually use the doors. Most likely you will never use them. But just because it breaks up the wall and it makes it look a little bit different. And then we're going to extend these up a little bit. And then next to this, you probably just want to use the normal greenhouse walls. So again, we'll build this all the way up and we'll start building in the shape that we need for our A-frame to come alive. So there we go. We want to have these even higher, of course. So we're gonna have to connect in that shape. Because yeah, this is gonna all be A-frame, of course. And then in the middle here, you can do normal walls, but I like to add in these instead, because I think that adds that extra little bit of variation and detail into your build, which is always a nice way to break it up. And then we can basically connect it all the way up so that we actually get our A-frame going. You should have something looking like this. Then what we want to do is add in some of the doors. Of course, we'll add in the big metal gates, but also we'll add in the rest of the doors just to make, well, in this case, I guess the walls technically complete, because I'm not using these as normal doors. I'm just using these as walls basically, but just want to have the little bit different looking design, and it's a little bit clearer, so it functions a little bit more as a window than the normal greenhouse wall, because unfortunately it doesn't really look too see-through. Even these are not really too see-through, but a little bit more clear. So you just want to fill this all the way in until you get this shape, and then we want to add in some more pillars. First off, you want to have pillars going along the edge of the doors right here all the way up, just as an extra little bit of detail. And then we also want to add in pillars here, because in my opinion the connection from the greenhouse to wood isn't that nice, and it feels like it makes a little bit more sense if there's an actual pillar there to make the connection a little bit more smooth, in my opinion. So then we have the A-frame on this side basically, and we need to start building it on the other side as well. But here we're gonna do it slightly different. Now there, of course, we have the big gate. We're not gonna have that here. Instead, we're gonna start in the middle with these tall doors, two of them next to each other. That's gonna go all the way up. Here we're gonna have the double doors on both sides, so basically the same as the other sides. That's usually the doors that I actually use in this case. And then we'll have the normal walls again, just like we had before. And then we can start building our A shape out all the way. Basically doing pretty much the same thing as we did on the other side as well. So we have the first length going up. And then basically we go up one by one until we can finish our A shape all the way through. There we go. And then we'll add in the sloped walls just to get the triangle complete. And yeah, that's basically all you need to do for your walls. There we go. We got our little A shape on both sides. Again, we want to add in the doors, of course, because it's not really a wall right now. So we'll fill in the double doors. For these doors, by the way, I always want to look where I have the connection. So now it's on the inside, and then usually I flip them around on the other side just so that it's all symmetrical on both sides. Just makes more sense in my head. Yeah, might be something that you like more as well. And then we want to add in some pillars, basically the same thing as we did on the other side. So we want to have it between the wood and the greenhouse. And then we can also have them here on the edges of the doors as well. Just to add in that little extra bit of detail. Now that we have both ends of the A-frame, or at least the big A-frame done, we'll focus on this side where we have the little extension of 7. We'll start with the walls by adding in 2 normal walls right here. Now, if you have no collision, which probably the best way to build is place another wall there. You can also just use quarter walls, of course. And then on this side, we are actually gonna use quarter walls. Make sure you pick the right variation so that you don't have any of the overlapping going on. And then we want to have that on this side. And of course, we want to do the same on the other side as well. So we'll just mirror what we've done before, making sure that these fit in correctly. And this is basically where we're gonna have a little addition to our house. What we want to do is we want to actually add an extra ceiling on both sides, because we're going to use half walls here. And yeah, we don't want anything to be floating. We're going to work on the porch on the outside of the build at the end as well. But for now, we want to add 2 more just so that we can place the walls that we're going to need. And then we want to have a quarter metal wall right there. So align it with the quarter walls that we have just placed before. So we want to have the same over there. Or we can make them too high just to make it a little bit easier. And this is basically where we're going to connect the outward bit to the house. So we have this little addition. What you want to do here is grab your wooden wall again, and you want to make sure that you have it go in by 2. And then I think it's a total of 4 high. And this is just to have a little extra addition to our house, some extra space. Not that I guess you'll need it, because it is a pretty big build. But I mean, some extra space is always nice, and it gives you an extra connection or an extra entrance, I guess, into your build. So then we should end up with something like this. We're gonna have 2 metal pillars on the end of this wall. And what this does also create is these little inlets, like little areas where you can more easily place some of the machinery. I'll show you my interior in a little bit at the end of the tutorial as well. Then we want to start focusing on what this wall is gonna look like. Now, first off, in the middle, we're gonna use the tall door again as a wall. Then to the side right here, we're going to use the double door. And we're going to do the same on this side, of course, because we want to Make sure it matches. And then the other walls we're just gonna bring up normally. So these are gonna be all big windows, a big greenhouse bit. Yeah, and this just gives us a little bit of a bigger flat wall, because of course most of the other walls are all yeah, basically part of the A-frame, so a little less easy to place some higher things against. Now we want to connect this wall up as well, so just make sure that we place these metal quarter walls all the way up on both sides. Oh god. Just give me the right snapping points, please. There we go. So we should end up with something looking like this. And then of course, on the outside, we can connect the pillar all the way to the top as well on both sides, so that the corners look a little bit nicer. And then of course we want to add in the doors again, so that we have all windows or doorways all the way filled in as well. And then in my case, again, I only really use the double doors as actual doors. The rest of them, like the middle one, is just like a bigger window. Yeah, and then we should end up with something looking like this. Now later we'll worry about connecting it to the roof when we start on that. Okay, then it's time to get started with the roof. Now, the roof is actually quite easy. You basically want to start like this, so that we have the overlap on the outside, and just go connect it all the way to the top like so. Yeah, I just really like the overlap on the outside, so that it looks a little bit better. I'm not sure if you can do this on official. Maybe you can. You should actually, because I mean there's no, it's just using the normal snap points, I guess. In some cases, of course, this causes some overlapping to happen. I think that's usually the problem for official, so I guess you could also just have it like a full roof overlap, but that might, yeah, look a little bit weirder, but yeah, it is what it is. Now, then we want to connect the roof, of course, to this side part that we're going to do. The good thing about this is that it actually lines up perfectly normal, so we don't have to do any weird overlapping stuff for this part. So we just want to connect the roof up like this. This is, of course, where we're going to have to build the connection. We'll do that in a little bit. For now, I'm also just filling in the roof completely with one material, of course. We're gonna add in some windows as well. So if you're doing this in survival, I'll show you some examples, but the windows are personal preference, how many, how big you want them. So for here, we'll use the sloped roof or wall to connect it up. We'll use a normal wall here again, and then another sloped wall, just so that we can make this connection go into the roof. We'll do the same bit on this side as well. So we'll have the structure like this, just so that we can integrate it in the roof very nicely. And then we can basically connect the rest of the roof all the way through. Like so. And yeah, it should perfectly line up. That's the good thing about building on this bigger scale, that it actually all lines up perfectly. We have no weird overlap going on. So I think, I haven't tried this, of course, because I'm not on official servers, but I wouldn't really know what isn't possible right now, except for maybe the gate and the pillars, because I got a comment saying that that wasn't possible on official, but I'm not quite sure, because again, haven't tested that. But I think you should be able to find a workaround for this build on this scale. It's a little bit easier than the smaller buildings where the overlapping happens more easily. All right, so we've almost filled in all of the roof. There we go. Can I please get the right snap points? There we go. So yeah, the normal roof, like if you don't do any detailing, should look something like this. I, for one, really do enjoy having some windows. So what I would do is probably go for like a big window on both sides. So you want to go all the way pretty much until you have an edge of one all around the window, because that feels very balanced with the way this roof lines up. Oh my god, what the hell are you doing, ARK? So yeah, I would go for, and I think that's what I did as well in my main build, just the big window, because it brings in a lot of light, which is really nice, so that your build isn't too dark. Although this build already, of course, has a lot of windows, but it's big as well, so I think it is a nice way to get in the light. Now, of course, we also need a roof for this main part, so let's get started on that. Okay, we want to start out with some metal ceilings along this way and just connect them all the way up across until the wall. And basically we want to go all around the walls with this. Just leave the middle open for now, because this is where we're going to add in another skylight, because you can never have enough light in your base, especially on this size. So yeah, we add in a little skylight. But as you can see, this looks kind of weird. This doesn't look very good. So we want to have some quarter ceilings as well, and go along the edge to have a little overlap, just so that it looks a little bit nicer, because otherwise it looks a little bit weird in my opinion. Now, the good thing about this building is, of course, it's an A-frame, so you can easily get onto the roof because, well, you just walk up onto it. So you can actually also use this part very easily as a place to park your birds or whatever, and then just walk off the roof. Maybe it doesn't look the best, like it doesn't make sense, but yeah, it works. So it is a convenient way. Of course, you can also just fly inside with most flyers that we have right now. Okay, now that of course we have the roof on the other side as well, we want to start off again by just going along and adding in the edge of the roof right here, just so that we have the nice overlap going. Then we'll connect in this bottom part as well. We want to add it in until here. We're going to work, of course, on the middle connection to the side building in a little bit. So for now, we'll end it right there. And again, as I said before, I really like to add windows in here as well. So I will be doing that on this side as well. First, let's go along the top and connect this all the way through, because we want to have at least the edge, of course, going on. And then, of course, you want to add in a window as well, just as we did on the other side. But the change that I would make here is that I would first add a second layer of metal roofing down here, just because it will align a little bit easier with the extension that we're going to have on this side. So we're going to remove that, of course. So you should have something looking like this. Then we can add in a window. You can just have it on the same size. Then I would suggest making it just the same shape as on the other size. But I also like to take advantage of the size that we have right here. So what I do is just build a bigger window here, taking advantage of the space that we have on this side, because it just looks very nice to have that much light on the inside. Okay, sorry, just had to turn off the rain. That's kind of an annoying thing. I'm in the middle of the tutorial. So what you should have, if you're following along with me, is 4 high for the window and then 5 wide. So quite a big window, which again will just bring in a ton of light into your build, which I personally really like about this design. But again, if you want to have different shaped windows, that is totally fine. This is just what I did for my build, so I'm just copying that over here. So then we should have something like this, and if you did everything correctly, there should be 4 normal roof pieces in between this. There we go. So we should end up with something looking like this. And then, of course, in the middle, we're going to have the connection bit to the other building as well. And in the case that you're only building part of this building, because I can imagine that you maybe only want this A-frame part, then you could just, you know, leave out this little piece and just fill in the roof all the way and start building a deck around it. It would be probably a little bit easier shape-wise as well. And you should already have quite a bit of space on the inside, as you can see. Well, obviously the first thing that we're going to need to do is extend this little walkway so that we can have our connection to the other side, and the entire thing needs to be 8 long. So right now we have 1, so let's extend that. And then depending on how deep the places where you're building, of course you will need more or less pillars. But we're just going to focus on getting the extension here. So now we have 3. So let's add a little bit more so that we have 6. There we go. And then we can add in 2 more. And that should be our entire hallway done. And while we're at it, we're also just going to work on the platform that we need for the second building. Now, these last 2 are already part of the other building. So what you want to do is extend 3 more on the outside over here. And then add in a pillar, of course, because we'll need the support again. And then we'll do the same on the other side as well. Again, go out by 3 so that we have basically a 9 long building here. And this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, because it's not just going to be a normal A-frame shape. It's going to be different on basically every side. So here we want to make sure that we have something that is 8 wide. So now we have 3. We'll need another pillar again, just as supports, so we can extend it so that it is 6. And then we can go all the way down, and then we go out by 2 again, because now we'll have a 8 wide, which will be the front of the building on this side. And on the other side, we're actually going for 6 instead. So it's a little bit shorter on this side. So we'll bring it out until the pillar, then 3 more so that we have the 6 that we need. And we'll make sure that it's all completely supported. So right now we have 6 on that side, 8 on this side. It's a little bit of a weirder shape. And the pillars, of course, don't exactly line up the way we normally do them. But for now, we're just going to add in the support anyway. If you want, you can later, of course, match these pillars. But they're going to be underneath the building for most part, so you're not going to even see them that much. Then over here, we want to make this 3 long. Then, of course, we'll add in another support just so that we can continue on building. Then we actually want to make this go in by 2 like this. So we have 2 over there. And then we go out by 1 before we extend like this again. So it's a little bit of a weirder shape, unfortunately. But that's just what we're going to need. And then on this side, we want to also make a strange corner. So we have going in by 1, and then we have basically 4 in a row here, which is very important because that's where we're also going to have like an A-frame front. And then we can basically fill in everything that we have right now. It's a little bit more of a complicated platform, but that's just because this is the size of the house itself. It's not yet taking into consideration any of the like platforms or walkways that you want to have on the outside as well. So yeah, as you can see, it's getting a little bit messy now with the pillars. That's just because I don't quite remember how I built the platform. My platform is also pretty messy just because I basically started just designing and then changing things whilst the platform was already there. My platform is probably not the best example. I think we can probably make something a little bit nicer and a little bit more logical in the end. But this is just the support of the building. So you should have this weird shape right here. And now that we have all this, we can see that the actual corridor is 6, but it will run in a little bit into this house, the design that I made at least. So for now, we're going to focus on this hallway though. Okay, first up, we're going to continue the wall from this building just all the way until this corner, and then we can fix it up right there as well. Again, you can use quarter ceilings as well for this last bit. I just do this out of ease, and we'll have it run all the way until the corner right here. Okay, so now we need to make the connection into this hallway in between the builds. And what I've done is, first of all, you start with the wooden piece right here, making it go down like this, because that's still the inside of the builds. And this is where I have snapped the roof to. So if we take a metal roof piece, this is where you line it. So this is where you have the overlap, which probably is where you're going to run into problems on official. So I don't know. I guess you could take out the bottom layer and, well, you would still end up with problems because it wouldn't line up. That's why I guess on official you really will need the full overlap on the outside. But for if you do have the collision on, you can take it like this, and we can line it up with the rest of the roof so that we have a normal shape where we're going to connect our hallway to. Then we want to take out the greenhouse sloped walls, and we want to make sure that the lighter part is facing us, because this is how we're going to make the connection between the glass bit and the normal bit that we have now. We want to do that there as well, so that we have this connection, and then we can use a normal wall on top of this to connect the shape going on. Now, we know that this pillar, that is the middle of our little walkway here, so we want to add in some double doors on both of these sides, like so. And then of course add some doors to that as well. This is just a extra connection which you can use to get onto the porch around the building, the walkways, whatever. Depends on your location, of course, but I just like having a lot of entrances and exits of my buildings. Then we can continue the wall all the way through like so. We can do the same over here until we have this shape. Now we're coming to the connection with the building. So that's basically going to be the same as on the other side. So we're going to add in the sloped wooden wall right here. And on top we can have the sloped greenhouse wall like so. So we can make the connection with the building. And then of course we can add in the sloped walls as well. Now obviously that is not everything. We're going to have to fill in this entire roof to make it look a little bit better than this. Again, we want to use metal ceilings for this, so we go along the edges with the metal ceilings like so. Now, oh god, let's get rid of that. Now what I've done on my build is add in some cellar doors right here, just because you know, I like the change of look, but also because you know, it's easy if you want to drop off some stuff, especially if you have like the bigger flyers. You can still drop off the stuff through your roof. You just open some of these hatches and you can drop them inside, and if you have a tribe you can help each other move. But also, you know, it looks a little bit nicer from the top as well. But if you don't want that, if you don't need it, you can just keep the normal roof all the way through. And then on the outside, of course, we want to have the little overlap with the quarter ceilings. Again, going all along the side just to add in a little bit more details to the build. Because otherwise it looks a little bit flat. And this way it doesn't. And it's quite an easy addition, but it does the trick very well. Okay, that was not really necessary over there. Can we get it? There we go. All right, and then we should have something looking like this. So we're already getting a little bit more into what my main base looks like. We've done the big A shape. We've done the little connection part, and now we're gonna do the second A-frame, which is also the most complicated A-frame that I have built so far. So bear with me, but the principles are still the exact same. Okay, let's start with doing some of the outlines just to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. Okay, just to make it a little bit easier for ourselves, we're going to start with some of the layouts of the A-frames that we're going to be building. We're going to start with the big one over here. We're going to start with a very similar wall design that we did before. So we want to have 3 like this. And then, of course, our sloped roofs on top to start off the shape of the A-frame. Now, again, like we did for the other ones, we want to make sure that we make these a little bit thicker with these quarter walls. Again, use your alternate wall to get the connection that you need to the wall piece that we already placed. So you have to rotate them every other one. If you're building in creative like me, you can actually just place the normal one first, and then every second one you need to replace. But of course, in survival, you'll actually have to rotate them each time and place them the proper way so that they connect in the gaps of the normal wall like this. So that's what we should have on this side. Then we'll connect them again, of course, with these quarter ceilings so that we can finish this shape just like we did before. So we'll place on our walls again and our sloped walls to get this A shape down. Now, the reason why I make this a little bit thicker than it needs to be is, one, to get the extra snap point, and also I kind of like the look. It makes it look like this is part of the structural foundation of the building, I guess. It just makes a little bit more sense in my opinion. So you should have that on this side. So that is the first of the A-frames that we're going to have in this build. Then we're going to focus on this side, where again we're going to start with a very familiar shape that we've seen a couple of times already in this video as well. So we're going to start with a shape like this. And as you can see, this one is a little bit shorter because this is the 6 wide one. And we're again going to do the exact same thing on these outsides as well. So we want to fill in these and make sure that we fit them in with the right shapes. So again, for creative, you can do it a little bit faster. I guess you can also do this in survival probably. It will just... yeah, you'll lose some materials, I guess. So it's depending on your patience of flipping these to being the right fit every time, whether you want to do that or not. To be fair, it's not that long. It's just when I try to make these videos, sometimes they're already getting pretty long, especially for a build like this. So I try to save some time sometimes. Okay, so we'll fill in all these walls. So we'll have this foundation shape right here as well. And then we are almost done for this part. Here again, we want to build these walls. And then we're actually changing it around a little bit, but not quite. We're going to add these quarter walls on the outside here. but for the rest it's gonna be the same principle, because we're still gonna make the same shape. It's just we're gonna add it onto the build instead of, you know, subtracting it from it. So we'll have this shape, and then we'll have to fill in the rest as we're used to. Now it's right now, of course, it's floating because we didn't place any foundations or ceilings down here yet. That will change when we focus on the walkways, but that's something I want to do at the end, because that's also up to your personal preference and your situations, how big you want your platform to be. So I feel like for the tutorial, that's the least important part, because that's the easiest part to do yourself as well. Okay, so we want to make sure that we fill all these in again with the right variations, like we've done all over the place right now. And then we have the smallest of A-frames right there. Okay, now we have a very weird looking shape, and we're gonna try and make sense of it. First off, we're gonna finish some of these walls. So right here, we want to finish this wall. Again, you can just use quarter walls there as well. We're gonna continue this wall as well. Here too. And then here again, filling this all in. So we have almost everything complete. Then this is actually the part where we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to have a metal pillar here and 2 metal pillars there. And then we're going to fill this in with a greenhouse wall, and then a sloped greenhouse wall on top of that. Just so you have an extra window. You can also add in just a wood window if you want that. I don't actually know why I have this window here, but that's just the way I have it in my build. I guess that's just a quirk of rebuilding, because this part I actually rebuilt a couple of times before I ended up with this shape. That's why it has such a weird shape, but it does look very interesting if we're completely done with it. Okay, then it's slowly but surely time to start working on finishing this build. First off, we're going to add in some pillars right here. We're going to add in some pillars on the end of this again, just because I like that better as a way to connect the greenhouse with the wooden walls. So we're going to do the same on this end as well. And then, you've guessed it, we're going to do the same on this end as well. Again, this is still flying, so it looks a little bit weird, but that will all work out when we start placing in our extra foundations. Now here, we want to add in some double doors, because I just like having double door exits everywhere. So we're going to do the same here. Now again, you can just go and stack double doors on each other, but if you prefer, you can also just have normal walls on top of it. It doesn't really matter. It's just like a different look to your build, I guess. So it's personal preference what you like the best. I usually just see whatever I fancy in the moment. And I also just, you know, try something out. If I think, yeah, that looks nice, I'll keep it. If I think, no, maybe let's try something else, I try something different. That's why I rebuilt this part of my build so many times when I started decorating the place. And then, as pretty much every time we've built an A-frame, we try to finish the A-frame shape by using these sloped walls on top. In this case, of course, not that much work, because it's, yeah, well, in this case, it's especially very small, and this one, I guess, a little bit bigger. And then we'll add in the doors as well, so that we have the complete structure. Now, again, for this, you probably want to just place in some ceilings, because we're gonna add in the walkway anyway. I just don't have it on my hotbar. Let's just place it, because driving me a little bit crazy. Probably easier as well for you, just to make sure you have it. But you can see we're not lined up. That's because we have this little addition on the outside now. Now, again, all the doors that I'm using as doors I usually open in these videos, just so you know which one I'm actually using. But these you can use, all of them you can actually use as real doors. Now, for this build, I actually added in some extra walls to make some different rooms. So what I did right here, I lined up this wooden wall with this. So I created a room, and then I also did this over here as well. And then actually making the room over here. So what I did is add in a door here. You can choose for yourself whether you do a double door or a smaller one. And then just continuing filling in these walls like so. And then just going all around filling that in. Because of course it's not really useful if you have like a big open space. We already have a very big open space on the other side as well. So I think for this we definitely want something like a little bit more closed off. And then of course we want to also follow the A-frame structure just so that it looks nice and all completed. And then what I would do is on the ends of this just use some metal pillars, and then just for the balance do it on both sides, because that makes a whole lot more sense. And then you basically create a little space to decorate and use as a nice cozy space. I think in this case I made like a bedroom from this. Now I would also add in a door. My favorite door for this one is always the reinforced door, but it doesn't really matter. You could also use the glass doors if you want to keep it consistent, but because it's a bedroom I use the reinforced one because you want a little bit of privacy in your bedroom, in my opinion. So that is basically the basic structure of this build done. Now let's start doing the roof as well for the last time. Okay, so with the roof, and especially one as complicated as this, it's usually just the best to start with the ends of the roof. And again, if you want to build this on official, I think you can build the main part if you do it a little bit differently, but for this part I can't make any promises because it's quite a complicated roof design, and I think without the collision disabling on, yeah, it's gonna probably be impossible, because I can't quite remember, but I can probably promise that we're gonna have some overlapping in this roof because it's a little bit of a mess, but it looks nice in the end. So again, we just want to go along and use these layouts that we've created to get the overhang on the outside of our roofs, and then we'll instantly already see that here we're gonna run into some overlapping, but it's not really too much of a problem, I think. So here especially, I think this could just as well be a wooden wall, because yeah, you're basically looking at the roof. But I think I had that part first before I added this. Now here we can add in the second piece of roof because it fits in perfectly, which is always great when that happens. Okay, let's start on the easiest part, and that is actually the big part of the roof, because what we want to do is you just want to connect it all the way like this, and then basically just pretend like this is a single A-frame and just continue this all the way up until where you would normally do it, and that's basically the A-frame shape that we make. And then on this side we also just let it come down the same way until it lines up with this roof right here, and then we can just fill in this part. We'll have a little gap, but if we pick the right spot we can line it up with the sloped roofs that we placed here and have the overlap with this part, and make sure that it's not overlapping on the inside, because that's not great. So the rain is gone again. We can just fill in the rest of this roof normally on this side, so no windows at all, especially because there's like a bedroom here. But if you want extra windows you can always do it. And then in this case, because the rest of the roof is so complicated and it's pretty difficult to get any windows in there, I'll add in a big window right here to get in some of that extra light into the build right away. And then we'll start with the more complicated roof. First off, we're just going to continue this normally, and then of course do the same trick as on the other side. Line it up with these sloped pieces so that we do not have any overlap to the inside, which we do not want. And then we can connect this all the way through. It should line up perfectly, which is always nice. This is still the easy part, and now slowly but surely we're gonna get to the more complicated part. So this is where this roof pretty much is gonna end. Okay, and then of course, besides figuring out the roof, we also need to figure out what is going on here, because this roof is done and this one is not lining up, of course. So we want to look over here and basically continue the A-frame for a little bit. So first we'll do this wooden addition, then we'll continue this pillar all the way through, and then basically what we're gonna end up doing is filling in the rest of this. So we want to have a normal wall right there. Then we're gonna add in our sloped walls like so. Then again, we're gonna have a normal wall connected to that. We're gonna have these sloped walls like this, and then this is where we're gonna have sloped walls down again. So basically we create I guess you could say just an extra window here, and it should have this shape. So we continue this wall like normal, and then here it's basically a normal wall in between two sloped ones. You have the same thing again, and then two sloped ones, because now we can line up the roof here as well. So what we do is we line up the roof with this sloped part as the end of it. So it should line up perfectly with this. This is where we're going to have, of course, a little bit more of the tricky bit. So this is where the tricky bit is going to be. This is where most of the overlapping is also going to be, because of course we need to line up these two roofs, and we're going to use the corner pieces for that right away. We just want to use corner pieces here to, you know, basically make this corner work. And it's still has a little overlap in it, of course, but you won't really notice that too much because you're not going to be underneath the roof like this. If you really don't like it, I guess you could just connect the wooden shape like this on the ends just to make the building complete, and you won't see a thing anymore. But that's just your personal preference. You might just want to hide away that. That's totally fine. Then we can continue filling in these roofs a little bit. And then again here, of course, we're going to need to make a turn. So we'll just place another corner, and we'll have a little bit of an overlap on that part. And let's do the same right here. And then actually we can see that we placed a normal roof right here, which, I mean, you can do, but probably what you're going to do is make a little corner right here. Even though you probably won't see it, in my mind, that gives me a lot of rest if I know that it's just nice and probably connected like this. Here we can actually make a pretty normal connection because we lined it up with this sloped part, which makes it a little bit easier. And then here again, we're gonna just make the connection, and then it's gonna have a little overlap on the end right there. But that is the roof completely done. So basically that is the entire building done. Like, this is how I've built my base. Now we'll do a little walk around my base, the interior as well, the way I've done it, because yeah, this is a pretty big build. You can definitely easily use this as a tribe. The way I've done it, I see this little side piece as basically the home. So this is where I have like a kitchen, I've got a map, I've got a little bit of storage, but more for like personal stuff. I've got some trophies on the walls, and I've got like a bedroom. So this is like the home. And then this is basically your workshop, your crafting area, where you can have a big forge in the middle very easily because you have plenty of space all around it. Now, you do have this structure, but you probably want to, also be able to enter it. So what I would do is make sure to create a walkway around it. Now, there are many ways to do this, and it also really depends on how much space you need and what kind of like shape you want, and of course what else you're gonna build. But probably you're gonna want to have at least 3 on the outside of your build, especially on these sides where we have the roof, because you'll already lose 1 just from it's gonna be beneath the ends of the roof. So probably want to have a little bit more space than just 1, so that's why I would go out by 3. So you basically would just go around and creating a platform like this. And then you can add in different shapes and different sizes. I'm not going to build the entire platform around this base right now because that would take a lot of time. Just some little tips that I would like to give you. One thing I can really recommend is, of course, deciding where your walkways are going to be. So where are you going to connect it, for example, to something else? That's probably why you want to have like something extra going out, and then maybe some stairs going down or up, depending on where you've built it. If you built it on the water, of course, or maybe you've built it on land. And then if you want to decorate, of course, I would just build in some railings because that's always nice. You don't want to fall off. And then wherever you have like a corner or just where you want to add in some extra details, place like a quarter wall first, so you can actually line up the pillars with the railings, because otherwise it's way too big. Because what I would do is, normally you would line up the pillar underneath, and then you have like a half pillar clipping through like that, so you can still make your supports, but it just lines up with the railing more nicely. Now let's have a look at the way I've built it for my main base, but hopefully this tutorial will have helped you a little bit. Okay, there we have it. We've just built, you can see there in the distance, we've just built the entire tutorial. But if you want to have a look at how I integrated it to my base, this is what I've done. So pretty similar height as to what I built over there. It's a little higher above the water, but I made sure that I could still go down by 1 enough so that I could have lower walkways as well. And this makes sure that I can also have some secret hidden basements in part of my build. Then I have like basically a 2 wide walkway on the outside, and I've connected some of these triangular ceilings as well to get some more interesting shapes, although they don't line up everywhere, which isn't great. So I don't know if I would do the same thing again or just go for a little bit of a simpler shape, because unfortunately the triangles don't really line up with like all the corners, so it doesn't look as good everywhere. But it does create for some nice interesting shapes in some places, which is why I did it in the first place. But as you can see, this is how I've done my railings all around, the way I showed you just before. This is what that looks like with some stairs included. I've used some of these bigger crop things just around, and then these I think are the potatoes, which are just very nice looking plants, which is why I chose them. I have also, of course, some species around just to shoot some of those damn seagulls that are always being annoying. But that's basically what I've done around to do a little bit of decorating. And then of course I've got some lamps just to have some lights on the outside, especially when it gets dark. That's just nice. That's basically the way I've done the walkway. Not too complicated. I've got access to water here. First, when I was using my Sarko a lot, this was just nice and quickly getting onto the base. But yeah, this is an example of what you could do with your decks. Now, in the tutorial, I talked about closing this off with a sloped wall, and I think I might actually do that, because right now you can see these empty spaces, which they don't make a lot of sense. So I might as well, close that off, make it look a little bit more seamless even more. So let's go into the big build, which is still pretty empty, as you can see. you have to keep in mind that this is also not my main base. I've spent a little bit of time here, especially when I was doing the water cave and getting some water dinos, but it is just my ocean base. I'm building so many bases that I don't always spend some time. But what I like about this build is that when I'm using a dino, or especially with the RG, when I'm carrying some stuff, I can just fly in, I can park them. There's still plenty of space. It's not crowded. I have plenty of storage. I've got all the like crafting stations that I need. I've got some air conditioning for breeding. I've got the fabricator here as well. I've got the new cryo fridge as well. Just added that in. Yeah, I've got basically room enough for everything that I need to get crafting. We've got the big industrial forge right in the middle. Plenty of space, which is of course very nice. But even if you have like a bigger production, so you have multiple smithies, multiple fabricators, if you do like large scale production work, you should still have plenty of space. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about a hidden basement. I basically build a layer down just to place my generator so that it is out of sight. Don't really need to do that because I do have the space, but that way I can place it very central without it being in the way for anything. So yeah, that's basically what I've done with my big builds, like the big house, the big A-frame. Then we have the little hallway. We've got some plants. We've got some nice little benches just to, you know, sit around. Currently it's the winter wonderland going on when I'm recording this. But yeah, this is just a nice connections to the deck on both sides. Easy to get around. And again, we've got the hatch frames on top if I need to drop in some stuff with my Rhino-Nathab, for example, because that can't fit in. Or even the one time I had the mammoth with a lot of wood, I just walked it up to the roof and then just started dumping stuff through those gaps because it was a little bit easier to get it to my smithy. Then this is the living quarters, which is a little bit more cozy. As you can see, it's a little bit more decorated as well. We still have the crafting stuff if you quickly want to craft something. We've got places for like blueprints and scrolls. We've got a little bit of storage. Got my old forges here, which I kind of just wasn't using, but I just placed them back here. Got the broad mutter. Got the first spider boss trophy here as well as decoration. And yeah, overall just a more comfy feel. A table here to discuss plans with your tribe. A little kitchen area as well where you can eat. I don't know why I don't have the turkey skin on this. But yeah, just a nice cozy kitchen. And then there's just, I guess, a little bit of the living room. We've got like the fireplace and everything. It's just all built around having the cozy vibes. Got a second cryo fridge. I don't know why I built two. I think I just crafted two. I just placed it here for now. I'm probably going to move that around because I don't need two in this exact spot. And then I've got my little bedroom here as well. And then I've got the little bedroom here as well. Just some beds, some spawn points here. And yeah, that's basically the way I've decorated this place. Like, it's a little bit messy. Again, there's also a hidden basement here for another generator because the base is so big that one generator doesn't reach everything. But yeah, I really enjoy this base. I think if I would have built this first, it definitely would have been my main base. But I probably wouldn't have built it on the ocean because it's very to one side of the map, of course. And I like to be a little bit more central. But then again, I'm building so many things right now that I don't really use one base as a main base. I'm always everywhere and in between. But yeah, this is how I decorated the place. If you're gonna build this for yourself, please feel free to share your screenshot of the results with me on like Twitter, X, or whatever it's called right now, or join my Discord. It's in the description below, and I would love to see what you do to the place and how you use it. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you watched it all the way through to the end, and then hopefully I will see you in the next video. And don't forget to show your support by hitting the like and subscribe if you've followed along all this way, and then hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.